Let's talk now about adding two numbers. What does it mean to add two numbers? Well, we can think about addition in terms of a count. So we could think of, for example, what is 2 squares plus 3 squares? Well, before we can answer that question, we need to say what the question means. To add two counts means to count all of the objects together. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. Now, of course, none of us are surprised to discover that 2 plus 3 is 5. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to see what we mean when we say that 2 plus 3 is 5. If we think in terms of lengths, we see a different picture. So here I've drawn the lengths 2 and 3. How do we combine these to get 5? Well, this length 3 is going to be the same length no matter where I draw it. So I'm going to pick it up and set it down so that it begins where 2 ends. And we see now that these combine to give a length of 5. To add two lengths, then, we draw the second length to begin where the first length ends. Now, why do we do this? Right, we're not doing this to discover that 2 plus 3 is 5. That's a fact that we were previously aware of. The reason that we're doing this is to see why 2 plus 3 is 5. This will help us when we go to work with more complicated numbers. Now, there's something that happened here that I want to draw attention to. Here, we added squares to squares. Here, we added unit lengths to unit lengths. In general, when we add, we will always add the same kinds of things. So we could add 2 squares plus 3 squares, and that would give us 5 squares. We could add 2 inches plus 3 inches, and that would give us 5 inches. If we were adding different kinds of things, however, if we added, for example, $2 plus 3 cents, well, that's not $5, and it's not 5 cents. We would just end up saying $2.03, because it doesn't make sense to add those two numbers. Why not? Because they provide counts of different things. Now, this idea that we can only add the same kinds of things also applies when we go to add large numbers. Let's say we wanted to add 281 plus 315. Well, my first number is 2 hundreds, 8 tens, and 1 unit. My second number is 3 hundreds, 1 ten, and 5 units. I say 2 hundreds plus 3 hundreds is 5 hundreds. 8 tens plus 1 ten is 9 tens. And 1 unit plus 5 units is 6 units. So I end up with 5 hundreds, 9 tens, and 6 units. Of course, I don't actually work that out by translating it into words. I work that out by writing my hundreds places in a column, my tens places in a column, my ones places in a column. That is, I line up the place values, and then I add down columns. And that's how we do what's called long addition. There's a little complication that comes up in long addition, of course. What is it? Well, sometimes we have to carry. Let's see what that looks like. Let's suppose that we want to add 675 plus 188. What does that look like? Well, again, 675, that's 6 hundreds, 7 tens, and 5 units. 188, that's 100, 8 tens, and 8 units. So this time I'm going to start with the units, and there's a reason. 5 units plus 8 units is 13 units. But, oh no, I can't write 13 in the units place, right? I can only write 1 digit in the units place, and I need 2 digits to write 13. So what am I going to do? Well, 13 units is 10 units plus 3 units, right? That's what the 13 means. It's 10 and 3. But 10 units is a 10. I actually have 1 10 and 3 units. I'm going to add this 10 in, then, with my tens. I have 7 tens plus 8 tens plus 1 more 10 that came from the 13. That'll be 7 and 8 is 15 tens, so I'll have 16 tens. Again, though, I can't put a 16 in the tens place. I make the same move as before. 16 tens is 10 tens plus 6 tens. But 10 tens is 100. If I take 10 groups of 10, that's 100. I keep the 6 for my tens place and carry the 100 into the hundreds place. So I have 6 hundreds plus 100 plus an extra 100, and working that out, 6, 7, 8 hundreds. How do we actually do that? Again, we line up the place values. 5 and 8 is 13. We do what's called carrying the 1. 1 and 7 and 8 is 16. Again, we carry the 1. And finally, 1 and 6 and 1 is 8. This step again is called carrying, or sometimes renaming. That word renaming refers to the move that we make when we say 10 units is the same as 110. 10 tens is the same as 100. So this idea that a number represents a count of something is still helpful to us when we go on to try to understand the slightly more complicated process for adding large numbers.